going back to preseason, seems to be playing out in the regular season, when people were talking about not favorites, but who could, slip in, who could be a Cinderella maybe in the National Hockey League, maybe shock everybody and get to a cup final. I think our friends at the Hockey News have suggested the Winnipeg Jets, and they are playing pretty good hockey under Paul Maurice, but, the only problem, if you want to call it that, they're in the brutally tough Western Conference. Look, Winnipeg, it's a great story. It's a sexy story. Good for them, the people in Winnipeg. How long has that city been waiting for a championship? Never mind hockey, even with the Blue Bombers, it's been a tough go. But in all seriousness, when the Jets down the road, can they be something special postseason this year?
I don't, Norm, I followed them very closely all last year. I think the world of Paul Maurice, as I'm sure you do. Anybody that meets him likes him. And I just liked the way they played. They had good goaltending with Pavlik and Hutchison, and they played hard. They played so hard, they had nothing left to play. I picked them to beat Anaheim, and I was just a little premature. But if you look at who they lost, the players that they brought in at the trade deadline and were able to augment their lineup, and now they can't afford them or won't spend the money to get them. So they've got young Ehlers, the kid who's going to be a great hockey player, but he's not doing what Winnipeg Flair has to do in order for that team to be effective. Scoring 6 goals, anybody can do that. But the Winnipeg, because of their size, they got to play a big physical game. And I don't know what they're going to do at the trade deadline, whether they're going to be a seller or a buyer, but they can sell Bufflin and get a boatload. The one thing that most people will concede, Norm, is that Winnipeg has the best farm system in the NHL at this point, with talented young juniors and or American League players ready to come on board. And that doesn't mean you're going to win this year for sure, but they look to me like a team that maybe 18, 19, 2 years down the road, they might be in pretty good shape. Maurice coaching and Hallebuck or Pavlik or Hallebuck and Hutchison playing goal, they're pretty well placed to be good in a couple of years. They might be able to make a couple of additions at the trade deadline and get it in gear, but they're at the bottom of that Central Division. It ain't easy climbing that ladder.
Yeah, and in light of what you said earlier, Bill, if as you project, 2-3 years, whatever down the road, what a story it would be, considering, as you addressed earlier, Dale Talon's Florida Panthers, if the Winnipeg Jets could, come out of the West. With the good young talent both clubs have, it's probably not insane to say maybe 3 or 4 years with luck, health, good health, and, as well as keeping up their excellence in drafting and developing. Imagine you have a Winnipeg, Florida Stanley Cup final. Wouldn't that be a story?
Well, it sure would be a story, but 4 years down the road, you're going to have Taves and Kane 4 years older, and they may be just as effective. There's a good chance they won't be. They're growing older, but they're there, and that's the only way you're going to overtake them is to get, young guys like Panarin, and Eastomov is older. Not when I say older, he's not as young as some of them. And they Keith and Seabrook might have just about had it by then. But I'm with you. I'd love to see Winnipeg and Florida in the Stanley Cup final. That would be well worth the price of admission, particularly since if you went to the game in June, you'd still be, the entrails of winter would still be on Portage in Maine, and it would be just seething hot in Fort Lauderdale. You wouldn't know what to wear.